Hello? Oh my god. Has not been picking up my mic this whole time. It's unmuted. Had to mute it and then unmute it for it to start recording. That's crazy. Well, anybody that's in here, I'm working on bringing my old React app. This guy. I got this old React app that I'm trying to bring over to the latest Remix version. Um, but Remix has swapped over to React Router. So go to this Remix Run website and you go into their tutorial. It's like, hey, just getting started with Remix. The latest version is now React Router 7. You know, link over to their tutorial and get set up from there. That's a surprise to me. I've been using V1 and V2 for the last 2 years. Initially over here, I was just trying to get routing set up, and in V1, V2, you can just add a file into the routes folder, and that'll automatically pick those up as routes for your website, and you just navigate to them and you're good to go. But in here, you've got to register each route, which seems crazy to me. It's extra work to keep everything in line. So you got to register these new routes to match the path name or the page name and then the path to that file, which seems a little silly to me. Oh shoot, I forgot to swap over. So over here, used to be able to just drop a new file into this folder and automatically register as a route. So when you go into your website, you hit weather history, that would just show up. Now you have to register your routes, name them, and then give them the file that's loading for it to show up. If I were to remove this and then try to hit that same spot that was working 2 seconds ago, now get a request page cannot be found. So it seems like an extra step that doesn't make sense. I mean, it makes sense in the way how it works, but it used to just auto register. Then after that, I was looking at their tutorial just for routing, and on their stocks, it just shows data loading. There's the client loader and the server loader. On the server loader, they return the product or their object, and then having a param in their function here in their component that can just grab it with this loader data. But when I was doing that, this loader data kept coming back as undefined. I was still able to use the values. I just didn't like that error being there as undefined. And normally I would use loader data to destructure that object. I was trying to get it to work their way, but it wasn't working. But then I was looking down here in their hooks, and they still have loader data. It doesn't say that it's deprecated or not to use it, so I just reverted back to that method that I'm used to, and things are working just fine now. So what I'm gonna do is start moving. Let me just load this other one up. The thing I want to do is put the port on this. What I'm going to do is convert this old app that I wrote a while ago, and looking at it, it just looks horrible. looks like it's duplicated code over and over again just because I'm passing in different objects. So I'm gonna turn these into components so I don't have freaking 3,000 lines of code or whatever we have here. Or what could probably essentially be done in 100 or less. This is just a set of tools I created a while ago. I like this weather history. It it grabs the weather for uh, it's supposed to be today. Looks like it's grabbing for yesterday. I'll have to look into why it's doing that as well. It's supposed to grab the weather for the day as well as the last 50 years, and kind of just show you the trend over that time period. You can see like average humidity, precipitation. Um, it's like over the last 5 years, this day has been pretty clear, but the day is partially cloudy. Looks like there's been a lot of rain in the last 10 years, a lot of rain over 30. So this is just averaging out the conditions over those time frames. But this is not a great way to look at this data as well. Like I don't really want to see the last 50. I just want to see the averages. And I think that what I'm going to do is put some charts in here. Like, there's my mock-up. There's a couple charts for time frames. I've like weather, humidities, predictions, whatever, snowfall, rainfall, however it may be, and then just have years on the bottom, and then percentages or temperatures or whatever on the left side, and have like the high, the low. I was thinking maybe put the average and the median, just the average. Um, I think it'd just be easier to look at than a bunch of text on a card. The step one today is just converting this from the old React app into this new vMix v3 and learn what's going on there. And since it's actually changed over to React Router, I'm going to be learning some extra stuff today as well, I guess. Let's restart this. It just locked up on me. There we go. We're on port 3000. All right. I am at the step of really just copying this code over and start digging into it. Um, in our loader, get the date. Now we can see why we're getting the wrong day. Creating a date ID. I'm just going to copy this over word for word with what I got here and then kind of go through it. See if I want to keep it that way or not. So what am I creating this ID for? Just grab this whole loader so you guys can see what I'm looking at as well. We have to create a controller for these functions. I was grabbing a date ID, passing it into this function, and that function. Okay, so I was using that to get, I was using that as the document ID for my Firestore database. But I think I'm going to come over to just use a local SQLite DB. for now. Actually, I'll just do that as an update in the future for now. I just want to get this over here working in this new environment. So create our controllers folder. This will be my weather history.server.ts. And adding this .server in here is just supposed to bundle it up on server code and give you some extra error handling. If you try to reference a function in this .server file from your client side code, it should throw an error. So if I were to put like this function in here, and that's just from my experience with Remix V1 and V2. I'm not sure if that's still going to matter in this React router, even though Remix is just a wrapper with around React router. Test text equals test function. Need to export it so I can access it. Oh, no errors. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. It got it over there. Oh wait, what's this? There we go. The server only module referenced by client. If I were to take this out, it wouldn't register that as server code. So I think that accessing it would be just fine. It won't get mad. No. Oh, it's still got weather history.server on there. It must have registered that somewhere. As server side code. Or maybe it just assumes anything that's not in this route. Controller. That's surprising to me. ZBX, cache, clear. No. npm cache clean. Just trying to see why it's throwing that up. There we go. So yeah, it was just cached. So I got it over here again. weather history is loading, not throwing an error this time. So it was just cached as a server file. When you add that in there, it's just an extra level of protection to make sure you're not referencing server-side code in the client. It'll bundle it up in the right place for you. Get rid of that. Get this back to the way it was. And clean it again, I guess. Weatherhistory.tsx. Oh, I renamed the wrong one. I want to rename the controller, not the route. There we go. Back to working. Cool. So, looks like we're gonna need to create a model as well. So let me grab my model. Big model. Daily data. And this is the data object that comes back from the API that I'm using, which is visual crossing or visual. Yeah, this visual crossing. And with the free API, I think you get like D requests a day or something. Not crazy. Oh, 1,000. So it's gone up since I used it. Cool. And that's the reason I was using the database before. There's only 50 requests and trying to test, reloading this page every 20, 30 seconds after you make a change. I was just storing that data into a Firestore database, and I would go check and see if that data existed for today before trying to pull from their API. But even with 1,000 records per day on the free one, you could definitely run into hitting that limit if you're just creating a fresh app. So I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep that Firestore database there so that I can um, reduce the amount of API requests I have to make to them. Let's just import that object. And then we've got our first function. It looks like, was I passing that in before? This was the old line. This is the new line. Grab this function. Get rid of that guy. So I am going to hide my screen real quick so I can set up this authorization. Be right back. Create a utils folder to store this in. Need to import that server as well as some objects. Not going to give me a wait here. Or primary DB. Utils. Let me see why that's not exporting. Or primary DB. I hope if I spelled it right. Utils not recognizing that. AJS. That's not the name of it. I've got the export list at the bottom. I've declared the DB. That is weird. This model in here. And historical data, we need that. Oh, that function looks ugly too. Alright, let me just bring over this whole file. Make sure there's nothing in here. Here's this whole file. What's going on with my music? That's just playing. Just very quiet. Alright. A utils DB server. Not find a declaration for module. DB server.js. See what happens. Cannot find module. All right. So this is something I'm gonna have to look up. The started to chat with Claude. This is to my Firestore. Ah, that could be an issue. Let me check my packages over here. Yeah, need to install Firebase. And other one I also had Firebase admin. For me. There's a little bit different setup. I'm gonna go back into that file with my keys in it. So let me turn that off real quick. There we go. All right. So I honestly just changed the export from exporting multiple things in there to creating the connection and then exporting uh, that DB directly. And that still didn't work. For some reason, when I changed it to lib firebase.ts, it instantly recognized it. We've got it in here now. So everything looks good on that end. See if we can load some data now. Oh, I meant to hit the dots, not that. Now I'm gonna have to kill that service. I launched on 3000. Oh no, it got back to 3000. When value doesn't show React cannot find module .env config. I have to set up a .env real quick. All right. So I just created a .env file on the root and I put some other keys in there. Looks like it's still having issues with it. Has that changed as well? Am I just missing that .env config package? No, I didn't have it over here. All right. Apparently, you don't even need to use .env anymore. You just put a prefix of v on there. But I gotta go back into that file. So let me hide my screen real quick. Wasn't even referencing, I was just importing it in there. That's really. Close this back out. Let's see what happens now. That's probably a change in that Firebase package, which unfortunately again requires me to go back in. Let me move this stuff out of that file real quick. And ID. Alright, buddy, here. I'm just trying to clean up some of these keys so I can share this screen while I'm working in there. Yep. So there must have been changes to this Firestore DB or Firestore library. Restart it. See what that error was. Firebase get or init is not a function. Get or init. See that in here. Clean up all this stuff from previous setup too. And that's when I was having issues before. I basically converted all of that stuff into this and just had that one export. Oh, we're still running into this issue here. Not a function. Where's our index.js? And I did admin. Interesting. So it wants a separate server side and a client side. I'm not even using client side, so I don't even really need that one. Bring that in. Check if anything's there. If there's nothing there, we want to initialize the app. That's in the credentials. Checked ID. We need client email and private key. Perfect. Then export. Firestore. Let's take this instead of this. And see if that fixes our issue. Slightly different. Initialize app not found. The request module Firebase admin is a common JS module. Oh man. Bring that over here and do a search. Let's reference all this directly from there. And get the private key. All right, let me make sure these are all named properly. project ID, Firebase project ID, and the client email, private key. We don't have either of those. Um, Why is somebody just sitting out front of the house? All right, let me check out my Firestore account and see if I can get those keys real quick. There we go. New file. Google service key.json. That. All right. Let me add these keys to .env now. Private key ID. ID, private key. And then an email. Let's see. That fixes it. All right. Vacation warning. If we come over here and we load from our API now. No. Why am I getting deprecation warnings when I just installed from their latest package? Okay, this is actually Firestore now. When I was Firestore up here too. Maybe I'm using the wrong. If this doesn't work, I may just go directly to make the API request and getting this set up. All right, let's try to revert this back. Bring that stuff from the right place. Oh, Firebase admin app and Firebase admin Firestore. Try this block of code here. I think the only difference is that they're typing my response and then defaulting to first app. Let's see if it works. No. All right. So we're gonna bypass this for now. Really is just this calling the DB and then storing it and then checking it. So today's weather, daily temp null equal null. Because we're accessing the history, so just create a model for that. Weight is history, which is an array. Empty array, there we go. So that should avoid going to our Firebase. We're going to delete this stuff so it doesn't try to get built at all. Want to move it to a local SQLite DB anyways, so there's no reason to have that in there. And down here is if we get weather data. Yeah, that's just updating the file. Again, we don't need. We're going to move to a SQLite DB. See if we can even make this request to their API. Just have to drive no initial. Where's this? There's your server.ts. Line 1 of 9. Oh, this is trying to get averages? Or is it? Yeah, so I'm getting all the temp max, and then I'm hitting the highest one and then dividing it by 5 since it's 5 years, I'm guessing. Man, this looks horrible. Looks like I should have just written a function. It looks like a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Aside from this variable, just written a function that takes that variable, then the amount of years. There's a different one. But yeah, it looks like it's the same thing over and over again. Anyways, 109. Reduce of empty array with no initial value. I mean, does that not have value? Oh, yeah, just push it down to 110 because I put an extra line there. Hmm. I don't even know what I ordered. Give me those overloads. Initial value is specified. It is used as the initial value to start the accumulation. The first call of the callback function provides an argument instead of an array value. No initial value. So what I just was that here? Well, I think that's what I need to do. Remember, I'm going to have to add that to all of these though. Yep, now we're down to 118. So let's just do a search for reduce and get to paste in. Yep, looks to be working. $181. Why is it on the value of the callback function and the accumulated result is provided as an argument in the next call to the callback function? Why are you upset about it not being an initial value? You have two overloads for the function. Three actually. Previous, current index. Oh well, that works. Let's just do it. It's making the error go away. $238. There we go. We got results. Oh, maybe we didn't get results. We got past those dang errors. Okay, so we got default values. So the request to the API must have been bad. Let's see. Oh no, wait. All we did was run this. We haven't even reached out to the API yet. We just got that guy working. Yeah, we don't need that doc ID anymore, but that's whatever. Now, go ahead and comment that out. Put that back in when I get for the SQLDB. Just to check SQLDB before calling the weather API. So this, we just want this. Just create that object now. What was that type? Daily data. History is required. My on the wrong object. What happened? Copied that whole row. Gonna import this. And then we'll log that. All right, we got our data back, and then we broke it. Server side is being referenced by client. Other history.tsx. Okay, I'm actually server code for the export. Oh man. Yes, it is imported by this, but we're using it in the server code. You want me to move this loader to its own file. TextWriter automatically removes server code from these exports. Loader action. Really? Take a look at their docs. That's a new change as well. Not flipping over. There we go. Vite handles mixed client and server code differently to the classic Remix compiler. For more information, see our documentation, okay? Page not found. That's cool. That's cool. That's a bummer. Notable difference with the way that Vite manages the public directory compared to the existing Remix compiler. Vite copies files from the public directory into the client build directory, whereas the Remix compiler will let the public directory untouched and use the subdirectory public build as the client build directory. That sucks. I need this document. Remix to React Router 7 loader access server files. React Router version 7, which incorporates many features previously exclusive to the remix, allows loaders to access server-side files and resources. I think that allows loaders to access server-side files. That's not what my error is telling me. All right, let's look for an actual document that works for this. We're going to use new type-safe features in React Router version 7 while keeping the server-side logic secure. Place my action and loader in a .server directory to prevent server-side code from being bundled with client-side code. Later remix. I understand that React Router generates types in React Router types directory, but I'm not sure how to properly import and use these types in server-side code. What's the correct way to import route-specific types into directories? Are there any specific configurations? Node 20, Node V 22, React V, package. My React is 19, so that's better. React DOM is 19, so we're good there. Router V7 is the next major version of Remix after V2. We have enabled all Remix V2 feature flags. Upgrading from Remix V2 to React V7 mainly involves a dependencies. Well, we can skip all this because we're just creating a React Router application now. Route.ts and React Router, you define your routes. Yep, we have that. Doesn't seem like too much though to convert some of my V2 projects so far. What about using server files? Do I need to declare like a server access for that route? I config add React Router config ts to your project. The config that was previously passed to the Remix plugin vconfig.ts is now exported from React Router config.ts. At this point, you should remove the v3 flags you added at step 1. No. All right. Data loading. Just using the fetch directly in there. What if I don't want to do that? In server rendering, loader is used for both initial page loads and client navigation. Client navigation calls the loader through an automatic fetch by React Router from the browser to your server. Rendering loaders are used to fetch data during the production build. Imagine that would be server code, huh? Let me try this by taking out that server declaration in my controller. They're in the cache again. Does it not like to use .server files now? 1000, reload that. I haven't got anything logged over here yet. Still nothing. What is happening now? I mean, we're not getting that accessing server code from client anymore. But now we're not getting anything. Let me close Visual Studio. Open it back up. Relaunch it. There we go. Cool. Made it through. We had the API, we got data back. And we got it for today instead of the other one for some reason was getting yesterday. But with that, let me grab this old UI. What is this? And why is it not showing you guys? We want this guy. There we go. Well, so yeah, I hit the API and it came back with data. So I think we made some decent progress today. I mean, we got it set up. Let me get this. All this JSX over here. I'll work on componentizing that another time. Make sure we can get it running. This is so sloppy over here. Card to card. Grab that, paste it. We're gonna need some other variables. Oh, no errors. There they are. That's Shadzian. So I need to get Shadzian in here. And then those missing variables. So let's get that set up. I also want to grab this. So we want to return this now instead of our test. And then we need this object imported. We need these use states brought in. And where are these guys? That's Lucid. I'd be able to get that. No? And let's install Lucid. And we'll need to install ShadCN. Here. Just gonna run all those commands over here. Yes, we want to install it. Then for ShadCN, you have to go through and install. You're not really installing, you're like downloading the components. Just where do we set up for the huh, doesn't have any specific information about setting up the path for where it's going to install it. We're good. So then they have these pre-made components. You come down here, grab this, and when you run that, it's going to add some new directories. There we go. So we got our component card, and you're just downloading that component. You can come in here and manipulate the styles to fit whatever you want as you're developing. And you just have to come in and import the reference for all those. Need a label as well. But ShadCN gives you all your accessibility stuff. Like this app is just going to be accessible to me. It's not going to be anything public. But if you did have something public that you were going to use for this, it's wrapped around Radix UI. Unless they've changed it. I think it uses Radix so that you get all your like screen reader and um, for blind and deaf, it helps them process what's going on. Some standards you just have to follow when you're reading stuff that works for the public, especially if you're in an industry that is going to have those type of people using your applications. All right, so back over here, run this. Let's see if it'll load our data. It did, yay. Cool. So for now, make all quits, get some lunch. In the future, yeah, I want to first create a connection to SQL, a local SQLite database, so that I can store today's data instead of hitting the API every time I come to this page while I'm going to design it. I want to set it up as well to have different layout. This was like my rough first idea I had, just creating a bunch of charts to have different. So down here you'd have the year, then on the side here you'd have like, oh, maybe this is uh, 70 degrees, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, whatever. and you'd have your max and your min for that year, or for the set of years, I guess, depending on how far you're looking back. But if you're just looking at 5 years, we could easily fit 5 bars and a graph on a website, maybe even 10, but then you start going 20, 30, 50, which is the max that I can get from that API is 50 years. So if you want to look at that 50 years, like a little drop down up here to select your time frame. But you'd probably just want the 10 bars over 50. Say this is like 1999 to 19 or 2009, whatever it may be. Maybe your max temp, your min temp, and then your average. Or if there was like rainfall, you'd have like your min rainfall, max rainfall, average over all those years. But just a first thought. Sure, I'll come up with something else as I'm developing or thinking about it. But it'd be better to present it that way than this way. Yeah, we got to run in. This is in the latest Remix V3 or React Router V7, however you want to look at it. I'll be back to work on it some more. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for stopping by. Y'all enjoyed it. Have a good one. Sleeping in the middle of a summer afternoon. Discord, whatever did we do to make you take our world away? Discord, are we a prey alone? Or are we just a stepping stone for taking back the throne? Discord, we won't take it anymore, so take a tyranny away. Disco X on the line, just as I suspected. No one really gets over me. I'm unaffected. Why would you try to ever put me second? You're just another groupie to me.